Hi everyone and welcome to the fourth and already last evening of the Passion Week. I'm so happy that you all are attending today's evening, even though we can't see you. We're very happy that you're joining tonight. And this week we heard about various aspects of being human. So the topic of this week is about what makes us human. And we heard about the emotional aspect of being human, the relational and the responsible aspect of being human. And today we're hearing more about about the relational aspect of being human. So if you missed the talks of the prior evenings, you can watch them back at our website, passionweekutrecht.nl passionweek.nl/Utrecht, I think it is. You can probably also find it in the chat or so. And today we will hear more, as I said, about the relational aspect of being human. And Maaike Verbruggen will talk about that with us more. So welcome, Maaike. Maaike is a student pastor and she's also the director of the Veritas Forum. And she will talk with us tonight about this topic, about what would you do for love specifically, if I'm correct. So if you want to ask Maaike questions, you can do that via Sli.Do with #relational. You can also find it in the chat of the YouTube live stream. So please ask your questions during the talk and we will get back to those questions at the end. Then I think I will give the floor to you, Maaike.
Yes, thank you very much. So, I will talk today about what would you do for love. I was 10, so that is quite some time ago. And we were on a summer holiday, and it was a hot summer. And my friends and I, the children who joined us that holiday, and I found a perfect spot to play. It was a somewhat deserted building, not far from the place where we stayed, and we played there all week. And it was on a Wednesday afternoon when after lunch this boy came to me and he told me, "I like you and do you want to be my girlfriend?" And I took that question very seriously. So I talked about it with my dad and with some friends, and then I decided to say yes. But before we headed home from our vacation, we broke up. He was my first boyfriend, and our puppy love lasted less than 24 hours. Preparing this talk, I Googled something that I maybe never should have done. I asked Google, what is love? And not only did it remind me of a very specific song that you are welcome, you will sing for the next 24 hours at least, also 9.5 billion results popped up on my screen. Apparently, love is something that keeps us busy. Philosophers have thought deep and difficult thoughts about it. There is a wide variety of bands and singers who wrote songs about it. And you only have to take a second to think about a few songs about love and you will be singing them all day long. Poems were written, plays were made, and I am not ashamed to tell you that when Christmas or Valentine's Day is coming up and Netflix's algorithm is showing me all the chick flicks and rom-coms with all the sweet storylines and meet cues, you know, I watch them all, chocolates and wine included, and I'm not ashamed of it. Love is somehow intriguing. And maybe it is because we all search for love. Ask yourself for a moment, do I search for love? And can I live without love? The reason I guess that the answer to the first question is yes and to the second question is no, is because love is our highest calling and our deepest dream. Our highest calling and our deepest dream is to love and to be loved. Let me explain that. Since the pandemic broke loose a year ago, this new word entered the public square. It's not that it didn't exist before, it just was experienced by a whole lot more people, and therefore it was everywhere. In Dutch, we call it huidhonger. And I'm not sure if there is an English translation for that, but you can describe it as the need or the hunger to feel people next to you, to feel close, maybe to hug them. Literally, it's the hunger for skin. And as we all started to social distance, we suddenly felt, and we still feel, I guess, how much we need other people. At least I do. I need other people. As we went into lockdown a year ago, I started to isolate, and after two weeks, I went to donate blood. I do that every 3 or 4 months. And as I was sitting there, the nurse was trying to find a vein in my arm, and I realized that it had been 2 weeks ago since somebody touched me. And now, the first time I was touched in 2 weeks, it was by a nurse who was trying to find a vein in my arm and was about to put a needle in it. We are created for connection. And as a Christian, as I read my Bible, there is a whole lot of, and it was good, on the first page of my Bible. God created the heavens and the earth, and it was good. He created land and seas, and it was good. He created trees and flowers, and it was good. And then he, as final masterpiece, created humans, and then it was even really good. But then the pattern of things being good is interrupted by something not being good. It is not good for a man to be alone. As I said, we are created for connection. There have been many scientific studies that prove the effect of human connection to our bodies. A study done by a professor of psychology at the University of California, Los Angeles, we can learn from that stress that is caused by a conflict in relationships, we can experience increased inflammation levels in our body. Matthew Lieberman, he is another professor at UCLA, tells us the importance of social connection. It is so strong that when we are rejected or we experience other social pain, our brains hurt in the same way as when we experience physical pain. We experience the result of social connection, of love, or the lack of it in our bodies. That is maybe why love sickness or loneliness can literally hurt. And it is why we can feel high from happiness when we really feel connected to somebody else. A Harvard study shows that close relationships, more than money or fame, are what keep people happy throughout their lives. So, let me tell you again, we are created for connection. And we are willing to do a lot to experience that connection. In the Twilight Zone episode The Long Morrow, an astronaut falls in love with a woman before he is sent into space. And he will be there for 40 years. And because she, the woman he loved, will be 40 years older the moment he returns, and he will be in suspended animation, so he will not age at all. He chooses to age naturally during this expedition. She, on the other hand, put herself in suspended animation so that she could be with him when he returned. Maybe that is something we can call real love. And although this was just an episode of a series written by man, and maybe you can think of something you have done out of love. Siddhartha Gautama, who you might know as the Buddha or the Enlightened, he warned actually his followers for love. Love and passion especially is a way to be attached to the world, but is in the end the reason for suffering. It is better when human frees itself from attachment and learns to silence its longings. Only then can man reach the stage of enlightenment, of peace and compassion, or, and maybe this word sounds familiar, the nirvana. So ages later, German philosopher Schopenhauer did not have a very romantic view on love. He thought love was just this kind of trick from nature to make us reproduce, he saw it as an illusion of nature. And then the British philosopher Bertrand Russell, he saw love as the only way to end loneliness. French philosopher and feminist Simone de Beauvoir, she did not just philosophize about love, but also about how to make or how to love better. She thought that love is only possible as a construction when people respect each other's freedom. And love is an essential part of life, but it is not the only part of life. So, what is love? Is it a search for completeness? For looking for the only one that will complete you? Is it a source of suffering? Is it even existent? Or is it just an illusion from the universe to make us reproduce? So let me tell you a story of love. As a child, I loved reading the Chronicles of Narnia, written by C.S. Lewis. Maybe you've heard of it. And there is also a movie from some of his books. And in the book, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which I really enjoyed, it's this story about Lucy, a little girl who, by accident, enters the magical world of Narnia when she's hiding in a closet. Narnia is being ruled by the White Witch, who embodies evil. And as Lucy's brother Edmund also enters Narnia, he meets the White Witch. And there is an old promise that when two boys and two girls, or how they are called in the book, two sons of Adam and two daughters of Eve, enters Narnia, they will free it from evil. They will save Narnia. So, a son of Adam and a daughter of Eve entering Narnia is threatening the power of the White Witch. So when she meets Edmund and finds out that he is human, she makes a plan. She feeds him Turkish delight, and maybe you have tried it. It's really good. But eating the Turkish delight makes Edmund desire more Turkish delight. And the witch uses Edmund's greed to convince him to bring his siblings to her. And you can already guess what will happen when the siblings come to the White Witch. When the children return to Narnia, and the moment they return, it's not just Edmund and Lucy, but also their brother and sister, Peter and Susan. They come to know that their darkness and evil is existing only more in Narnia. Things had gone worse from the moment they left. But there is a plan to defeat it. And these 4 children, are part of it. But Edmund is, of course, still led by his desire for Turkish delight, and he betrays them by leaving to find a white witch. So he leaves his siblings behind. And he is about to give them all over to her if he just can have some Turkish delight. But there is hope, and hope comes in the form of the lion Aslan, the good power that will save Narnia. To save Edmund from the White Witch, Aslan agrees to die in place of Edmund. And so it happens. And as Lucy and Susan are mourning at the stone table, the place where Aslan was killed and where his body was laying, they are crying until they have no more tears left. And then they leave the body of Aslan behind. And suddenly this happens. And I quote from the book. At that moment, they heard from behind them a loud noise, a great cracking, deafening noise, as if a giant had broken a giant's plate. The stone table was broken into 2 pieces by a great crack that ran down from it from end to end. And there was no Aslan. Is he gone? Is it a magic trick? Lucy is asking, is this magic as well? When they wonder what happened, they suddenly hear Aslan's voice answering all their questions. Aslan is alive again, and he is about to save Narnia and defeat the White Witch forever. Maybe this story sounds familiar to you. You might have heard it before in one way or another. Soon, billions of Christians will celebrate Easter. But before they celebrate, they will remember. Because 2,000 years ago, there was this man. He was born in a cave. He was surrounded by animals. And the people who visited him were shepherds and men who came from afar to visit him. He became a teacher, and he gathered a lot of followers around him who followed him everywhere he went. He made people who were sick, he healed people who were sick, he righted wrongs, he even rose somebody from the dead. He was a beloved teacher, but the established religious leaders wanted him dead. And so it came that 2,000 years ago, there was this man hanging on a cross. A cross is considered the most cruel death. It is extremely painful, as nails are driven through the wrist of the one who is about to be crucified, and also through the ankles. The body's weight would cause the shoulders and the elbows and the wrists to get out of their sockets. And it would cause the body's weight to, the body's weight would be on the chest. And that would cause the person who was hanging on the cross to die from suffocation. And I looked into this because I wanted to know how it happened, and it made me sick. It is an excruciating death. It is so painful to be crucified. But when we took a closer look at the why of his death, it wasn't just because religious leaders wanted so. It wasn't because of the Roman Empire had thought of this inhumane way to kill or execute their criminals. This man wasn't even a criminal. His name was Jesus, and billions of people believed that he was the Son of God. He was born as a helpless little baby, and he died as a righteous man because of an old promise from God. And that old promise from God reminded me of one of the promises in Narnia that was told to Lucy and her siblings by Mr. Beaver. And you might read the book to know who Mr. Beaver is, so I would encourage you to do so. But this promise, wrong will be right when Aslan comes in sight. At the sound of his roar, sorrows will be no more. When he bares his teeth, winter meets its death. And when he shakes his mane, we shall have spring again. When sin, wrong, and disconnection entered our world, God promised to send a redeemer and a restorer. Someone to carry the sin of the world and to restore our connection with God again. And so God sent his Son. And although it might sound like it, death was not the end of the story of Jesus. Death was not the end of the story of Jesus. Because after 3 days, Jesus rose from the dead. The people who buried him in a new grave came to visit the grave after the weekend. And it is called a weekend because of that day. And they found that the grave was empty. And there is a lot to say about the historical facts that prove that it actually did happen. And I want to start with the fact that it were women who were the first to tell about the resurrection of Jesus. And if you know how women were treated in that time and age, they weren't very credible in what they said. But somehow this was real. And if you want to know more about that, or you want to take a closer look, I encourage you to fill in the follow-up form, and you can find a link in the chat below or at your left, I don't know. So we can take a closer look at that. But one of the most convincing facts for me that the resurrection really did happen is that there are over 500 people who told that they saw Jesus after his resurrection with their own eyes. And some of them, they didn't even believe that he really rose from the dead. So they tried to give him something to eat and to drink, because you know a ghost cannot eat, can it? And Jesus ate and he drank to prove that he was really alive. You know, this is just a story when you do not believe in the reason behind the story. When you do not believe in how our relationship with God has been broken before, and that Jesus did die out of love for us and to help us restore this relationship with him. But when you do believe in the real reason of Jesus' death, it becomes the greatest power that is alive in people of all ages and all over the world. It is a story of restoration. It is a story of healing, and it is a story of forgiveness. He did go this far for love. So, when we would ask Jesus the question of today, what would you do for love? He would say, I would die for you. The question is, how far will you go to receive love and to feel loved? 2 years back, there was this radio hit, and it was the same as with every radio hit. It was everywhere for a little while. And I had surgery 2 years ago, and I remember when I woke up after surgery, and I was laying in my bed and I could not move, and I was watching the ceiling, and a nurse was coming to give me more painkillers, and the first thing I heard after I woke up was a song, and it was that song. It's a song, You Say, by Lauren Daigle. Lauren once told that the question behind the song is about identity. It's about, who am I? Am I loved? Am I worth? What's my worth? Where do I belong? Why do I have so many imperfections? And I will read the lyrics for you. So listen to that. I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. Am I more than just the sum of every high and every low? Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. The only thing that matters now is everything you think of me. In you I find my worth. In you I find my identity. Taking all I have, I'm laying it at your feet. You have every failure, God. You have every victory. You say I am loved when I cannot feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. You say I am held when I am falling short and when I don't belong. You say I am yours. And I believe what you say of me. So when we ask ourselves what we would do for love, I hope that you consider to start believing the words about the person who makes you belong. The person who holds you when you are falling short. And the person who loves you even when you don't feel a thing. And I want to encourage you to start that conversation. To start to get to know him. And it might be something that frightens you, or maybe you don't know how or where to start. Let me tell you, we want to help you. So why don't you just fill in the follow-up form that you can find a link in the chat, and just let us know, I want to drink a coffee together and talk about this, or well, whatever. There are a lot of options in the form. And maybe you're interested in starting to read one of the eyewitness accounts of somebody who followed Jesus very closely to find out more about the words and the life of Jesus. If you got a goodie bag today or this week, you found this booklet in it. It's called Uncover. And it is the oldest ancient biography of Jesus. The story I just told you about this man hanging on the cross, it is in this booklet, and we want to give it to you. So, again, just fill in the follow-up form. You can say that you want to have Uncover. Because maybe you want to discover who Jesus was for yourself. If you are interested, or if you have more questions or are ready to dive in this biography of Jesus yourself, please let us know. Or join us in Zoom right after this session. There's also a link for that in the chat. So there's a lot of links, and you can use them all. And then also you can ask all your questions in the Q&A right after this talk. And you can also go to the next link, which is Sli.Do. So please use that as well if you have any questions. As a conclusion, I want to end with a quote from Søren Kierkegaard. Love is the expression of the one who loves, not of the one who is loved. Love is the expression of the one who loves, not of the one who is loved. When we ask ourselves what you would do for love, and I tell you that Jesus loves you, as we can learn from the Bible, and I know from experience, there is nothing you can do for him to love you less. And there is nothing you can do for him to love you more. And it is my wish for you that you will discover that love during your life. because you were made for it. We are made relational people. You were made for love. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maaike, for your interesting talk. I really liked what you said about creating connections, like that we are kind of created for making connections with other people, which is what I at least personally recognized, especially during the last year in which we missed those connections with other people sometimes. There are some questions for you which came in via Sli.Do. If you still have questions, you can still ask them via Sli.Do, so please do. You can find it in the chat of the live stream. I will read some of the questions for you. The first question is, isn't a relationship with a real human better than a relationship with God? Because I can feel a human being, I can't feel God.
That is a really nice question to begin with. I would say yes and no. From experience, I can say that even when all my friends are leaving, God will still be with me. So in that, that would make it better for me to just have God, because other people can leave you. They might go other ways. And on the other hand, I would say yes, because our relationship with God is also displayed in the relationships we have with other people. So in true friendship with people, I can also experience my relationship with Jesus. Not just because we believe in Jesus ourselves, both my friends and I, but also because the way we love and the way we talk is showing me who Jesus is. Yeah.
So is that also an answer you would give if you talk about friends who are probably not believing in Jesus?
Yeah, I guess I do, because love is something that is primarily given by God, I believe. And yeah, so I guess I would say yes. And on the other hand, sharing faith with a friend really deepens your relationship. So it changes something of the dynamics, because it's not just you and your friend together, but there is a third person joining the relationship. But also in friendship and in love, even if there is no God in it, it somehow displays something of who Jesus is for me. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. There are some other questions. One is about animals, actually. Is relational something unique to humans? Or, for example, aren't animals also relational? Like, they also are often, not always, in each other's company and touch each other, look for each other, probably. Not all animals, I don't know.
Yeah, okay. So people who know me know that I'm not really an animal lover. So I'm probably not the right person to answer this question. But on the other hand, you know, I just told that God made the heavens and the earth, and he also created animals. And although I do not believe that we come from the apes, I do think that God also put something of himself in animals, or at least, yeah. So they are his creation. So I guess there is something in it. But, you know, I'm probably not the right person to answer this question, so I will not say any more of it.
Well, thank you for your answer, and we will get back to the human beings, which is where this week is also
like a
about.
great idea. Yeah.
So one of those is about Buddhist human beings, actually. So apparently their idea of detachment from love actually works for them. How would you respond to that? And are they wrong or not? Or perhaps other people will choose to live like in a very solitary way?
Yeah, it somehow relates to the first question you asked, where we were talking about, where I said that, when everybody leaves me, God is still there. So I guess that is what works for them as well. But I believe, just as I said, that we are created for connection with God and with each other. And it's also, the Bible gives us actually 2 commands that really are maybe more important than everything else. Jesus calls them the great commandments. So, that name also gives them some priority. And that is love God and love your neighbors as yourself. So, when Jesus gave a summary of the thing he told us to love the people around us. So that implicates that we were not, as Buddhists say, made for human connection. And I could not live without other persons, so I would not be in solitary, I guess.
Well, luckily we don't have to do that, all of us. But thank you for your answer. And then I have some other questions. Let me see. So you just said like we are made to love each other, but what can you do if you are actually not if you don't feel a lot of love for a certain person who probably did something very wrong to you or to someone else you love?
That is a very difficult and also very broad question.
That's true.
I could talk for another hour about that, I guess. I'm thinking about how to summarize all the things that pop up in my head, but I don't know. As a Christian, I want to follow the example Jesus gave, and he chose to forgive. And so when people hurt me, or when there is injustice done by other people to me, and I realize that when I say this, I myself also have experienced that this is really hard, to forgive other people and to try to continue with the life we had, and sometimes that is not possible, and I realize that. But I think I just read it last week. Resentment, and I guess also hate, is like taking poison yourself and expecting that the enemy will die. So it's not working. So when you cannot like everybody in a whole world, there are some people you love more and you like more, and that have the same interests, read the same books, love the same movies and series, and have the same jobs. I don't know. There are people that you connect better with than other people. So you don't have to be friends with everybody, because that is not possible. And when there is injustice, or when there is wrongdoing, I guess the key is to forgive. And for me, God plays a really big part in that. I asked God to help me forgive somebody who did me wrong, It was a very tough process, but he really helped me. And at moments when it gets hard, and I remember the hate I had, I ask him, and the moment I think about it, I'm sometimes I start to hate again. So I continuously have to ask God, please help me to keep on forgiving. And that is a really tough process, and I'm not implying that you can do that right now and just be done with it forever. But yeah, I would start to ask God, ask Jesus to give me the love for somebody else who I don't naturally love.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was a great summary, and it's at least good to know.
Summary,
it's a
like
process.
a little bit long
Process.
summary.
Thank you. And then there's another question. You say that other people can show you who Jesus is. Is there then a little bit of Jesus in everyone?
Yes, because the Bible tells us that we were made in God's image. So yes, there is a little bit of Jesus in everybody. Maybe not everybody is showing it, and that is difficult. But yeah, I guess from creation, when we are made in God's image, there is something good in everybody. Yeah.
And how can we show that more? Like, how can we be more relational in this pandemic? Do you have any suggestions for that, when it's probably not always possible to see each other that often?
Of course, there are always ways. And that can be very practical. This afternoon I received a card from a friend who said, I am thinking of you and I hope we can hug again very soon, which is great. That is how she is showing her love. Other ways are caring for other people, and maybe social distancing is loving other people in itself already. You know, you can think a lot about whether it's necessary or not, but when people are old or sick, then loving another person can be done by social distancing, or sending them a card, like, I know you cannot see a lot of people right now, but I'm thinking of you. And for me, what also plays a part, as I already told, I believe in God, and I talk to God. I would love to say every day, but I would lie if I say so. But when I talk to God, I also talk about my friends and my family. And I pray that God is with them even when I cannot be with them. So my faith plays a big role in when I am caring for my friends and family, the way I care for them and the way I pray for them. And
So you can actually also be relational in connecting with God, to connect to friends and family. And that also has to do with what I just said, that when we have a relationship or friendship, I expect God to be the third person in that relationship. And that makes that when I'm alone and my friend is not near, that God is. Okay, thank you. Then there's a question about Jesus. How can we know that Jesus really lived and died and resurrected in this time?
How can we know that Jesus really lived and died and rose again?
Mm-hmm.
Again, that is a very broad question.
You get the deep questions today.
Yeah. It is also a very great question. when it is your question, I would love to talk to you because there is such a personal um, um, part in this question. You know, it comes from somewhere. But again, as a summary, I can say that I feel that I experience that Jesus lives, that God lives, and I experience that by the way that, you know, it as a child I learned this short poem that really show, or it does not show me that God lives, but it is like this vergelijking in Dutch. Comparison with Jesus, and it goes like this: who has seen the wind? Neither you or I, but when the trees bow down their heads, the wind is passing by. We cannot see the wind, but we can see what the wind does. So the trees, they are moving. And it's the same with God. I cannot see God, I cannot touch God, but I can see what He is doing, and therefore I know that He exists. When we talk about death, well, that is something, and also resurrection. There is a lot of historical proof that proves that Jesus is alive, and I just named some of them. One of the, and I realize when I'm thinking about this that it is easier to explain in Dutch. So I'm sorry if I cannot give you a complete answer to this. But the fact that there are so many eyewitness accounts in the Bible already, so there are 4 books in the Bible, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, that were written by different people on different places, on different times, that tell the same story. And that is because they all saw the same thing. And for me, that proves, that is part of the proof that Jesus rose from the dead. And again, I know He did because God is not dead. Because I experience Him every day in the things I do, in the things I feel, in the relationship I have with Him. You know, I'm not married, but I can imagine that when you're married and you have a deep relationship with your husband or your wife, that you know you have, like, you feel like where your significant other is, or well, sometimes you hear from twins, for example, that they feel like when the other is experiencing pain. And it's not something that we can scientifically prove, but it is something that is existing. So I guess it would be something like that. But again, if this is your question, please fill in the feedback form so we can dive more into this, and I can bring you sources that have way more information about this than I just can tell.
Yeah, thank you. And you also talked already a bit about it, but how do you personally experience God's love? You told about that you experience God being there, but how do you specifically experience His love? Yeah, you also said you experience it in friendships, but are there other things you can point out for that question?
My first answer is yes. But on the other hand, how can I explain the way I feel? That is, even for women, very difficult, especially for women. So how do I feel God's love? For some reason, well, I just told I have a lot of friends, and for some reason it happens quite often that when I feel down, or um, when I had a tough day at work, when things aren't going well, when I have worries, that my friends are sending me WhatsApp messages to ask me, "Hey, how are you doing?" Just out of the blue. Sometimes, we all have our own busy lives, and sometimes we do not have contact for weeks. And then out of the blue, at the moment I need it the most, God is sending me not just like a good feeling. No, He's sending me a friend to ask me, "Hey, how are you doing? And is there anything I can do for you?" And I know that when I tell them that I'm not doing well, they cannot solve all my problems. And that is not what I'm asking from them, but the fact that they are there, and they are thinking of me, and that they are praying, they are talking to God with me about me, that is part of how God is showing His love. And again, it is mostly a feeling that I cannot explain. I talked about this, the high you can feel when you really feel connected to somebody, when you have this great conversation with a friend. It sometimes happens, and because of, we can say it's just because of hormones or whatever is released somewhere here. It makes you feel really happy, and it gives you the feeling of like the high of happiness. I don't know how that starts or why it happens. I can describe it scientifically, but when is the conversation good enough that like these hormones, that I get to start to feel happy? Or I don't know, it just happens because I have a good conversation and I'm happy and I'm feeling related to the person that I'm talking to. Or sometimes we're just eating pizza and watching Friends, which also can give me the high of happiness. It just happens. Sometimes I just feel the high of happiness and the love of God in my heart. It just happens. And of course it mostly happens when I'm at places where I am focused on God, because when to have a good conversation or to really feel connected to somebody else, you need to have a little bit of focus to each other. So when I'm focused on God, and for me that, for example, happens in church when we're singing, or when I'm for me especially when I'm singing, or when I'm taking a hike in the woods, that really helps me to feel the love of God, because the way God created nature for me shows His love, and it makes me feel this high of love.
Yeah, thank you. Well, even though it's probably hard to explain it rationally, it's I think you give a good impression. But there's a very older question, like, if you have never felt love or loved someone, how do you know what you say is true?
If you have never felt love or felt loved, what
or love
question?
someone else.
Yeah. And then how do you know
what
you feel?
What you told us about love, how do you know that is true if you have never experienced it yourself?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. And I realized that I can say that because I'm very privileged. I have a lot of people in my life that I love and who love me back.
So would you have some kind of advice for people who may feel like this?
I would say that I would really encourage you, if this is your question, to start the conversation with God. And that might just asking God, please let me experience love. You know, my first reaction is I don't know, because I don't know. But when Jesus was hanging on the cross, he knew that feeling. He felt that feeling of there was nobody there, because the Bible says that even his Father, God the Father, had forsaken him. There was nobody who loved him anymore for that moment when he was hanging on the cross. He felt so alone. And that is what makes it you know, when you are feeling or not feeling this, Jesus is saying, I feel you. I know the feeling. And I think he's also crying for you, because he wants you to experience love, not just from other people, but also from himself. So I want to encourage you to just start talking to him and see what happens. Maybe that is the best advice I can give. Just start talking, see what happens, and I pray that God will show you his love. And I also want to encourage you to fill just the follow-up form. Just let us know, because I would love to talk to you. Not because I can solve all your problems, but because my heart aches for you. So I would just have a coffee with you to, you know, eat pizza and watch Friends together. If that might solve anything.
That solves a lot. I know that from experience. Yeah. Well, thank you for your answers. I think that's a good answer to end the talk with. And if you still want to talk about this topic or related topics, you can join the Zoom link, which is in the chat of the live stream. So please do if you want to. And also, as Maaike said, you can fill out our feedback form for. That will be very helpful for us, and it also gives you some nice free books, I think, and a goodie bag. So please fill it out, and thank you very much for joining, and I hope we can talk to you later.
Thank you.